Princess Kate has finally spoken. After years of silence, after the palace corridors echoed with whispers, after tabloids and social media exploded with rumors and speculation, she broke her silence. And what she revealed about Prince Harry's royal exit is so shocking that it has sent ripples through the monarchy, the media, and the public alike. Did Meghan Markle really force Harry to choose between the monarchy and their marriage? Did he betray the crown for love? Or is there a more complicated, hidden truth that no one has dared to tell? It all started with a private conversation, one that very few people have access to. Sources close to the royal family say Kate was hesitant to speak, reluctant even, but a series of events pushed her into making a statement that will forever change how the world perceives the Sussex departure. Imagine the tension in that room, the weight of tradition, the intensity of family loyalty, and the vulnerability of a young prince torn between two worlds. Kate's words, calm but pointed, painted a picture of a family stunned not by betrayal, but by miscommunication, by misunderstandings, by narratives that had been twisted in the glare of public scrutiny. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Kate's disclosure didn't come as a simple statement. It came as a reflection, a revelation, a window into a side of the story few had ever seen. She framed Harry's choice not as a rebellion, but as a deeply personal decision, one that combined love, duty, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. According to insiders, Kate emphasized that the family never asked Harry to leave. Never. This was not about exile, punishment, or rejection. Yet, somehow, the narrative had been spun to suggest otherwise, leaving the public to believe that Harry was running from duty when in fact he was navigating the complex emotional terrain of love, marriage, and royal expectations. And here's where it gets complicated. Meghan's alleged role in all of this. Did she really present Harry with an ultimatum? Did she push him toward a path that would sever him from centuries of tradition and family allegiance? Kate's remarks suggest a nuanced reality. According to what she shared, Meghan's influence, though undeniable, was not coercive in the way the tabloids have suggested. Instead, it was part of a delicate balancing act, a tension between personal desires and the obligations of royal life. Kate's insight doesn't absolve Meghan, nor does it vilify her. It merely offers a glimpse into the human side of a story that has been sensationalized, distorted, and debated endlessly in public forums. The stakes could not be higher. Harry's departure from the royal family was more than a personal choice. It reshaped public perception of the monarchy, impacted diplomatic relations, and even influenced charitable and public engagements that were central to the royal brand. Kate, known for her composure, her empathy, and her strategic thinking, recognized the gravity of speaking out. Every word she shared carried weight. Every detail offered a new lens through which to view the unfolding drama. She didn't merely comment on a family rift. She illuminated the emotional complexities, the misunderstandings, and the deeply personal choices that underpin a story that the world has tried to simplify for decades. But the revelation didn't stop there. Kate also addressed the public narrative that Harry had been forced into exile. She refuted it, directly and without hesitation, stating that the family never asked him to leave. This was a bombshell. For years, headlines had painted Harry as a man escaping pressure, fleeing a suffocating institution. Kate's words flipped the script. They suggest that Harry's departure was not the result of family rejection, but a personal decision, one influenced by love, loyalty, and a desire to protect his immediate family. This reframing challenges decades of reporting, contradicts countless narratives, and forces the public to reconsider everything they thought they knew about the Sussex story. Consider the emotional weight of this revelation. For Kate, for William, for Charles, for the rest of the family, this was not merely about public perception. It was about trust, communication, and the fragile threads that hold relationships together. Harry's exit, while framed as a personal choice, had profound consequences on family dynamics. Kate's insight suggests that, behind closed doors, there was sorrow, concern, and even fear. How do you watch a loved one step away from centuries of tradition? How do you process the implications of a choice that alters not only a personal trajectory, but the course of a family institution? Kate's words offer a candid, emotional perspective on these questions, blending empathy with clarity and diplomacy with frankness. And yet, even as Kate speaks, questions remain. What exactly prompted Harry's final decision? What conversations took place in private rooms, away from the press and public scrutiny? How did Meghan truly influence his choice? And how did the family respond in those moments of high tension? Kate's remarks hint at answers, but they also leave tantalizing gaps. She reveals enough to reshape the narrative, but she keeps certain details under wraps, maintaining the suspense that has surrounded the Sussex departure since the very beginning. This is where the story becomes irresistible. Every revelation from Kate opens another door, every statement adds another layer of complexity, and every insight forces us to confront contradictions and surprises. For example, Kate's calm demeanor in sharing these details contrasts sharply with the explosive media coverage of Harry and Meghan's exit. There is irony here. The world has long painted Kate as composed, sometimes distant, yet it is precisely her measured, thoughtful revelations that carry the most dramatic impact. The tension between public persona and private insight becomes a central theme, raising questions about how narratives are shaped and controlled, and who truly holds the power to tell a story. And then there's the question of timing. Why speak now? Why after all these years? Insiders suggest that recent developments, perhaps related to Harry and Meghan's ongoing public statements, interviews, or business ventures, prompted Kate to clarify the family's stance. The timing adds urgency, a sense of immediacy, and stakes that cannot be ignored. Every moment she speaks, every word she shares, has the potential to alter public perception, sway opinion, and reshape the historical record. What Kate revealed also shines a light on the human side of royalty, a side often obscured by protocol, tradition, and media sensationalism. We see her as a sister-in-law, a confidant, and a stabilizing force. We see her navigating emotional terrain with precision, empathy, and strategy. We see a woman who understands the power of narrative, the weight of words, and the delicate balance between private truth and public perception. Her revelations about Harry's departure do not merely provide facts. They provide insight, context, and emotional texture that has been missing from the public conversation for years. But here's the cliffhanger, the detail that will make you stop and ask. Kate hinted at a private conversation, a pivotal moment, that has never been disclosed before. A moment that could change the way we understand Harry's departure, Meghan's role, and the family's internal dynamics. She didn't reveal everything. She left just enough to keep the world guessing, to spark debates, and to ignite curiosity. And what came next, according to insiders, would change everything, and no one saw it coming. So as we dive into this story, remember, this is not just about royal protocol, public appearances, or media narratives. It's about family, love, loyalty, and choices that ripple far beyond private lives. It's about misunderstandings, misrepresentations, and the intricate web of human emotion that underpins one of the most dramatic exits in modern royal history. And it's about the first time a key voice, Princess Kate, has broken her silence, offering clarity, emotion, and revelation in a story that has captivated the world for years. But the real question remains, what did Kate see, hear, and feel in that private moment? And how does it change everything we thought we knew about Prince Harry's decision to step away from the monarchy? The answers are coming, chapter by chapter, but the first revelations alone are enough to shock, to provoke, and to leave the world holding its breath. It all began with a dinner that no one outside the palace was meant to know about. A seemingly ordinary evening, yet it would set the stage for one of the most shocking rifts in modern royal history. Imagine the room, polished silver, the faint scent of roses, the clink of fine china, and beneath it all, a tension so thick it could be cut with a knife. Princess Kate sat across from Prince Harry, her posture impeccable, her eyes calm, but inside, she was alert, attuned to every nuance of conversation. The conversation that unfolded that night, according to insiders, was far from ordinary. Harry had been restless for months. The pressures of royal life, amplified by public scrutiny and media speculation, weighed heavily on him. Long before Meghan Markle entered the picture, Harry had begun wrestling with the constraints of tradition. The expectations of the monarchy, the relentless gaze of the press, and the subtle judgments of his own family created a storm within him, a storm that Kate, perceptive and empathetic, noticed long before anyone else. The dinner was meant to be casual, almost ceremonial, but the underlying tension was unmistakable. William and Kate, ever mindful of their roles, approached it delicately. Kate reportedly tried to bridge the gap, to open a dialogue with Harry about his concerns, his fears, and the choices he faced. Her approach was calm but probing, respectful but pointed. She asked questions that others might have feared to voice, seeking to understand the depth of Harry's turmoil. "What do you feel you can't say?" she asked, her voice measured yet soft, designed to invite honesty. Harry, known for his emotional candor but also his guardedness, hesitated. This was not just a conversation about duties or appearances. It was a conversation about identity, about love, about loyalty, and about the future. For Harry, these were questions that had no easy answers. He had always been the royal who sought to break free from constraints while maintaining honor, a delicate balancing act that few could truly understand. Kate's insight, according to palace insiders, was crucial in these moments. She did not lecture. She did not chastise. She listened. She acknowledged the weight of expectation, the sacrifices, and the emotional burden. She reminded Harry of the family's love, of the support that had always been there. Yet she also challenged him to articulate his needs, his fears, and his desires. Her approach was both empathetic and strategic, a reflection of her understanding that words, carefully chosen, could alter the trajectory of events. But even with Kate's guidance, the rift was beginning to form. Harry's internal conflict, fueled by years of scrutiny and amplified by Meghan's eventual presence, created tension that even Kate's diplomacy could not immediately resolve. The room, though outwardly calm, was charged with emotion. Every glance, every pause, every subtle gesture carried meaning. It was in these subtleties that the first cracks of a growing divide began to show. Insiders reveal that Harry had confided in Kate about feelings he had not shared with anyone else. The pressure to conform, the sense of being trapped between duty and personal happiness, and the overwhelming media attention had created a sense of urgency in him, a need to make a decision that would define not only his life but the perception of the monarchy itself. Kate, aware of the gravity, approached the conversation with care, aiming to prevent missteps that could escalate into public scandal. Yet, the story did not unfold as smoothly as anyone could have hoped. Misunderstandings compounded, amplified by the constant gaze of the press and the public's insatiable curiosity. A seemingly innocuous remark could be misinterpreted, a private emotion could become fodder for headlines. Kate's calm and thoughtful words sometimes collided with Harry's emotional impulses, creating moments of tension that, in hindsight, foreshadowed the eventual decision that would shock the world. The presence of Meghan Markle, though not yet central at this early stage, began to influence the dynamic. Sources indicate that Harry, already struggling with the weight of expectation, found in Meghan both support and a catalyst for action. Her perspective, her ambition, and her insistence on personal happiness provided Harry with an alternative path, a path that diverged sharply from traditional royal expectations. Kate, perceptive and aware of potential consequences, reportedly expressed concern, not criticism. She recognized the delicate balance between understanding Harry's choices and protecting the family's integrity. This dinner, seemingly simple, became a symbolic moment, a microcosm of the larger rift that was forming. Each conversation thereafter built upon the foundations laid that night. Private meetings, discreet phone calls, and carefully mediated discussions would follow, but the emotional undercurrent had already shifted. Kate observed, listened, and recorded in her mind every nuance, every hesitation, every expression of conflict. Her awareness of the stakes was unparalleled. She knew that one misstep, one misinterpreted word, could escalate a private concern into a global spectacle. As the months unfolded, the rift widened. Harry's desire for autonomy clashed with the family's insistence on duty. Kate remained a steady presence, a mediator, and a confidant, attempting to bridge the growing divide. Yet the public perception, fueled by media narratives and social media speculation, painted a different story. To the outside world, it seemed as though Harry was abandoning his family, breaking traditions, and defying expectations. Kate's insight, however, revealed a far more nuanced reality. a young prince navigating complex personal and emotional terrain, guided by love, loyalty, and a desire to protect those closest to him. Every family interaction, every official engagement, every private meeting carried the weight of this growing tension. Kate's role was not merely observational. She was actively engaged in attempts to mitigate misunderstandings, to provide clarity, and to offer support without overstepping boundaries. Her delicate handling of these interactions showcased not only her emotional intelligence, but also her strategic understanding of the royal family's delicate ecosystem. Yet despite her efforts, the pressures persisted. Harry's internal conflict intensified, and with Meghan's eventual involvement, the dynamics became even more intricate. Kate's observations, her interventions, and her private conversations all served to illuminate the complexities behind a story that the public had long simplified. She understood that the narrative of a simple departure was far from accurate. The reality was layered with emotion, duty, loyalty, and personal desire. And then came the pivotal moments. The decisions, the statements, the subtle shifts that would culminate in Harry's eventual exit from the monarchy. Kate's early observations, her patience, and her empathetic approach did not prevent the rift, but they provide critical insight into how and why it occurred. She watched as private frustrations became public headlines, as personal choices were transformed into global narratives, and as the weight of expectation pressed ever more heavily on her brother-in-law. By the end of this chapter in the family story, the rift had become undeniable. It was not a single event or a singular cause, but a complex interplay of personal desire, familial expectation, external pressure, and emotional turbulence. Kate's role, as observer, confidant, and mediator, offers a rare window into these dynamics, shedding light on the moments that led to the unprecedented royal departure. But even as the first cracks appeared, the full scope of the consequences remained hidden. The dinner, the private talks, the subtle tensions, they were all precursors to a revelation that would stun the world. Because what Kate observed in those early moments, the emotional weight, the conflict between love and duty, and Harry's growing determination, was only the beginning. And what came next, according to insiders, would escalate beyond anything the family or the public could have anticipated. The question that has haunted the public for years is simple, yet explosive. Did Meghan Markle truly force Prince Harry into a choice between the monarchy and their marriage? It's a question that ignites debate, speculation, and fierce opinions. And yet, the reality is far more layered than the tabloid headlines would suggest. Princess Kate's recent disclosures provide a rare glimpse into this complex dynamic, revealing the delicate tension between love, loyalty, and duty that defined the period leading up to Harry's unprecedented exit. From the very beginning, Meghan's presence in Harry's life introduced a new energy. She was outspoken, confident, and determined, a stark contrast to the restrained, tradition-bound world of the royal family. Insiders note that Meghan's influence was immediate, but it wasn't merely about power or pressure. It was, at its core, about love, ambition, and a shared vision for the couple's life together. Harry, who had long wrestled with the weight of expectation and public scrutiny, found in Meghan both a source of support and a catalyst for action. Kate observed the changes closely. In private moments, she noticed Harry's renewed sense of purpose, his increasing desire to assert control over his own life, and his willingness to challenge the boundaries of royal tradition. Meghan, according to Kate's insights, encouraged him to consider what happiness and autonomy could mean for his future, and, crucially, for the family he was starting with her. Some saw this as guidance. Others interpreted it as pressure. The nuance is critical. Meghan's influence was not coercion in the classical sense, yet the emotional intensity of their relationship, combined with the stakes of royal life, created a scenario where Harry felt compelled to make an irrevocable decision. The media quickly seized upon this narrative, painting Meghan as the instigator, the catalyst for Harry's rebellion. Headlines screamed of ultimatums, forced choices, and dramatic confrontations behind palace walls. But Kate's reflections suggest that the truth is more complex. Meghan's role, while undeniably significant, cannot be reduced to a simple binary of villain and victim. She was a partner, a confidant, and a figure whose vision for a different life challenged the rigidity of royal expectations. In this light, Harry's decision to step back from royal duties becomes less about coercion and more about navigating the collision between personal desire and institutional obligation. Insiders reveal that Meghan encouraged Harry to articulate his needs, to confront the pressures he had long endured silently, and to consider the implications of their life together. Kate reportedly observed these interactions with a mixture of empathy and caution. She understood the strength of Meghan's influence, but she also recognized Harry's agency. He was not a passive participant in these discussions. He was an active decision-maker, weighing love against duty, personal happiness against public perception. Kate's insight emphasizes that Harry's choice was neither impulsive nor solely dictated by Meghan. It was a calculated, emotionally charged decision that reflected the complexity of his circumstances. The tension escalated as Harry began to explore options outside the traditional framework. Discussions about financial independence, public engagements, and geographic relocation emerged. Meghan, aware of the constraints imposed by royal life, advocated for a path that would allow them autonomy while still honoring their responsibilities. Kate, in observing these developments, recognized the delicate balance required, supporting Harry's personal growth without undermining the monarchy, acknowledging Meghan's influence without vilifying her, and maintaining family cohesion amidst mounting public scrutiny. One particularly revealing moment, according to palace insiders, occurred during a private conversation in which Kate directly addressed Harry about the implications of stepping back from royal duties. "You are not alone in this," she reportedly said. "We understand your struggles, but consider the consequences for you, for your family, for your children." Harry's response, measured yet resolute, highlighted the emotional stakes. He acknowledged the risks, the scrutiny, and the potential fallout. Yet he expressed a profound commitment to his marriage and his vision for a different kind of life. Kate, observing this, recognized the inevitability of the eventual decision. The rift, though not yet public, had begun to solidify. It is essential to understand that Meghan's influence was both emotional and strategic. She offered support, reassurance, and clarity at a time when Harry faced immense pressure. But her influence also carried weight because of the intensity of their bond. In private moments, she challenged him to articulate his priorities, confront his fears, and imagine a life unbound by tradition. To outsiders, this may have looked like coercion, but Kate's insight reframes it. Meghan's guidance was part of a partnership, a negotiation between two individuals navigating unprecedented circumstances. Yet the public narrative has long suggested otherwise. Headlines implied ultimatums, palace confrontations, and dramatic showdowns. Kate's disclosures challenge these assumptions. She emphasizes that Harry's decision was not imposed upon him. It was a choice he made, informed by love but also by a clear understanding of the consequences. The monarchy, according to Kate, never asked him to leave. The notion of a forced departure is a misrepresentation, a distortion amplified by media speculation and public fascination. The emotional complexity of this period cannot be overstated. Harry's choice, influenced by Meghan but ultimately his own, created tension not only within the family but also in the public sphere. Kate's observations highlight the delicate navigation required: how to support a loved one's happiness while maintaining institutional integrity, how to reconcile private decisions with public perception, and how to manage emotions that are amplified by the relentless gaze of the media. Her insight underscores the human dimension of the royal story, often overlooked in sensationalist accounts. At the heart of this narrative lies a contradiction. Meghan's influence was both empowering and destabilizing. She encouraged Harry to assert his independence, yet her presence intensified the scrutiny and expectations he faced. Kate, understanding this duality, approached her role as a mediator with care. She offered perspective, provided emotional support, and maintained a focus on family cohesion. Her measured approach contrasted sharply with the dramatic portrayals in the media, revealing a deeper, more nuanced truth about the interplay of personal desire and institutional duty. As this chapter in the royal saga unfolded, the public remained largely unaware of the private negotiations, the emotional struggles, and the strategic considerations that shaped Harry's path. Kate's recent disclosure lifts the veil on these moments, offering a candid view of the dynamics at play. It is a story of love, influence, and the difficult choices that arise when personal happiness intersects with centuries of tradition. And yet, even as Kate's observations clarify Meghan's role, questions remain. Did Meghan anticipate the full consequences of Harry's choice? How did she reconcile her ambition with the pressures of royal life? Kate's remarks suggest that Meghan's intentions were rooted in partnership and love, but the outcomes, public scrutiny, media backlash, and familial tension, were far more complex than anyone could have predicted. This is where the drama intensifies. The influence of Meghan, though subtle and private, had far-reaching implications. Every discussion, every suggestion, every moment of encouragement nudged Harry closer to a decision that would alter the monarchy, the family, and their own lives irreversibly. Kate, observing these dynamics, recognized both the necessity and the danger inherent in these choices. Her perspective illuminates the emotional tightrope that Harry and Meghan navigated, a balance between love and duty, freedom and expectation, personal desire and institutional responsibility. And here's the cliffhanger that will keep the audience hooked. Kate hinted that there was one conversation, a private moment, where Meghan's influence reached its peak, a moment that clarified Harry's choice in a way that no public statement ever could. What was said? How did it shape the decisions that followed? Kate left just enough unsaid to ignite curiosity, leaving the world to speculate on the pivotal instant that would define the trajectory of the Sussex story. Because in the end, Meghan's influence was not just about persuasion or pressure. It was about a partnership, a shared vision, and the emotional stakes of a love that demanded difficult choices. And as the following chapters reveal, the consequences of that influence, combined with the misunderstandings, the pressures, and the delicate family dynamics, would lead to revelations, confrontations, and decisions that shocked the world and challenged the very fabric of the monarchy itself. For years, Princess Kate maintained a calm and composed exterior. She moved through public engagements with grace, smiled for the cameras, and spoke only when protocol demanded. Yet behind the scenes, she observed the seismic shifts within the royal family, the tensions, the heartbreak, and the whispers that rarely reached the public eye. And now, for the first time, she has broken that silence. Kate's decision to speak was not sudden. Insiders reveal that it followed months of reflection, careful consultation with aides, and a deep understanding of the narrative that had been building in public forums. The media had painted Harry's departure as a dramatic fallout, a betrayal of tradition, a rebellious act against the monarchy. Meghan had been cast as the instigator, Harry as the conflicted prince, and the rest of the family as either distant observers or enablers. Kate's voice had been absent in these narratives, leaving speculation to dominate headlines. Breaking that silence required courage. To step into the spotlight and comment on one of the most controversial episodes in modern royal history meant opening herself to scrutiny, criticism, and, potentially, backlash. Yet Kate's choice to speak reveals something about her character. She is not merely a figurehead. She is a mediator, a witness, and a custodian of family truth. Her words carry both emotional weight and authority, offering a rare, intimate glimpse into the private dynamics of a family that has long been shrouded in public mystery. According to insiders, Kate's first comments were carefully calibrated. She did not seek to assign blame, nor did she aim to sensationalize. Instead, she framed her perspective around understanding, empathy, and context. She emphasized that Harry's decision to step back from royal duties was deeply personal, shaped by love, loyalty, and the pressures of a life lived under constant scrutiny. Kate highlighted that the family had never asked him to leave, a statement that, in its simplicity, dismantled years of media speculation. The implications of that revelation are profound. For decades, the narrative had suggested that Harry was driven out, pushed into exile by an institution unwilling to accommodate his personal needs. Kate's voice now reframes that story. It suggests that Harry's departure was not a forced exile, but a voluntary choice, one made out of love and a desire for personal fulfillment. This reframing challenges long-held assumptions, forcing the public to reconsider everything they thought they knew about the Sussex story. Kate's decision to speak also sheds light on her perspective of Meghan's role. Far from condemning or vilifying her, Kate described Meghan as an influential partner in Harry's life, someone whose guidance and support shaped his choices, but did not coerce them. Kate's insight is critical here. It clarifies that Harry was not simply a pawn in Meghan's ambitions, nor was Meghan acting with malicious intent. Their relationship, according to Kate, was a complex partnership navigating extraordinary circumstances, with emotional stakes that extended beyond the confines of traditional royal expectations. One particularly revealing aspect of Kate's disclosure concerns her observations of Harry's emotional state in the months leading up to his exit. She noticed a profound inner conflict, a tension between duty and desire, tradition and personal happiness. Kate's role, as a stabilizing presence, was to listen, to guide, and to provide perspective without overstepping boundaries. Her reflections reveal the human side of royalty, a side often obscured by ceremony, protocol, and media spin. She saw a young man torn between love and duty, and she responded with empathy and prudence. The public may never fully grasp the intensity of those private moments. Insiders describe hours-long conversations where Kate probed gently, asking Harry to articulate his fears, his hopes, and the implications of his choices. These discussions were not about control or persuasion. They were about understanding and clarity. Kate's measured approach contrasts sharply with the drama depicted in the media, emphasizing that the reality behind the headlines is far more nuanced, human, and emotionally charged. Kate's revelations also highlight the broader impact of Harry's departure on the family. She spoke candidly about the emotional toll, the uncertainty, and the delicate balancing act required to maintain relationships amidst public scrutiny. Her words convey both loyalty and realism, acknowledging the challenges of supporting a loved one while grappling with institutional responsibilities. In doing so, Kate provides insight into the emotional intelligence required to navigate such extraordinary circumstances, an intelligence often invisible to the public eye. Another dimension of Kate's silence-breaking is her ability to challenge misconceptions without inflaming controversy. She clarified that the family's intentions were not punitive. There was no effort to push Harry away, no orchestrated plan to marginalize him. Instead, the family's approach, according to Kate, was rooted in understanding, patience, and an awareness of the pressures he faced. This perspective reframes the entire narrative, revealing a story of miscommunication, perception, and emotional complexity rather than conflict and betrayal. Kate's insights also offer a rare glimpse into the private conversations that shaped critical decisions. She referenced discussions with Charles, William, and other senior family members, highlighting moments of concern, encouragement, and counsel. These exchanges, she explained, were characterized by respect for Harry's autonomy, an acknowledgement of his personal struggles, and a desire to maintain familial bonds. Kate's reflections suggest that the family's approach was far more supportive than the public narrative had implied, a revelation that challenges long-standing assumptions. One particularly striking point in Kate's comments concerns the role of empathy. She emphasized that understanding Harry's emotional journey required acknowledging both his love for Meghan and his sense of duty to the monarchy. Kate's perspective underscores the complexity of balancing personal relationships with institutional expectations, highlighting a tension that resonates far beyond the royal family. It is a tension familiar to anyone navigating competing loyalties, expectations, and responsibilities, a tension that Kate articulates with clarity and emotional depth. Her decision to speak also serves as a counter-narrative to the sensationalist portrayals of Meghan. While the media often framed Meghan as manipulative or domineering, Kate's words suggest a more nuanced reality. Meghan's influence was significant but not coercive, shaped by partnership, dialogue, and shared values. By providing this perspective, Kate adds depth and context to a story that has been simplified, distorted, and sensationalized over the years. Kate's break in silence is also significant for its timing. It coincides with renewed public interest in the Sussex story, ongoing media speculation, and emerging revelations about private conversations, legal disputes, and public engagements. Her decision to speak now adds urgency, relevance, and a sense of immediacy to the narrative. It signals that, after years of observation and reflection, she feels compelled to provide clarity, a clarity that challenges assumptions and reframes the public understanding of one of the most scrutinized departures in royal history. But the most compelling element of Kate's revelation is the emotional honesty it conveys. She does not simply provide facts or timelines. She conveys empathy, nuance, and insight into the human dimensions of the story. Her observations illuminate the fears, hopes, and struggles that underpin Harry's decision, revealing the emotional stakes in a way that has been largely absent from public discourse. Through Kate's voice, we gain access to the private world of the royal family, a world where love, duty, and personal choice collide with extraordinary consequences. And here is the cliffhanger. Kate hinted at a private conversation, one that has never been disclosed, where she directly addressed the narrative surrounding Harry and Meghan's departure. She did not reveal the full details, leaving the public to speculate on what was said, how it influenced Harry's choices, and what it implies about the family's internal dynamics. It is a moment shrouded in mystery, one that promises to shed light on unanswered questions and unresolved tensions. Because Kate's silence breaking is only the beginning. It opens doors to new revelations, reinterpretations, and insights that will reshape the understanding of Harry's exit. Her voice provides perspective, clarity, and emotional depth, challenging preconceived notions and inviting the public to reconsider the story in its full complexity. And as the next chapters reveal, the consequences of these revelations and the private conversations that remain hidden will continue to unfold in ways that shock, provoke, and captivate. For years, the prevailing narrative was simple. Prince Harry had been forced out, exiled from the royal family by an institution unwilling to bend, constrained by centuries of tradition, and pressured into a choice that pitted duty against personal happiness. Headlines screamed about betrayal, drama, and division. Meghan Markle was cast as the instigator, Harry as the conflicted prince, and the family as distant and uncompromising. But Princess Kate's recent revelations dismantle that story entirely. According to Kate, the family never asked Harry to leave. Never. That statement, simple yet explosive, reframes the entire saga. It suggests that Harry's exit was a personal choice, complex, emotional, and deeply human, but not an act of coercion or rejection. Kate's words illuminate a reality that few in the public have truly understood. Harry was navigating a minefield of expectations, personal desires, and familial loyalty, making decisions that were entirely his own, even as the world misinterpreted them. The distinction is critical. To be forced out implies pressure, exclusion, or even rejection. To choose to leave, however, is an act of agency, a conscious decision that reflects internal deliberation, emotional weight, and foresight. Kate emphasized that Harry's family did not orchestrate his exit, did not manipulate him into abandoning duties, and did not cast him aside. Instead, the decision emerged from a convergence of personal desires, emotional stakes, and life circumstances. Harry chose love, he chose his marriage, but he was never asked, or told, to walk away from the monarchy. This perspective challenges decades of reporting and speculation. The media, social commentators, and even some royal experts have long propagated the idea that Harry was pushed, marginalized, or otherwise forced into exile. Kate's insights provide a corrective lens, emphasizing that the family's approach was one of understanding, patience, and emotional support. Far from orchestrating a dramatic exit, they sought to navigate the tensions carefully, balancing Harry's personal needs with the continuity of the institution. Insiders reveal that Kate observed these dynamics closely. She saw the careful diplomacy employed by senior family members, the attempts to address Harry's concerns without confrontation, and the persistent efforts to maintain dialogue even as tensions escalated. The family's strategy was not about coercion. It was about listening, advising, and offering guidance while respecting Harry's autonomy. Kate's reflections underscore the human dimension of this process: empathy, patience, and emotional intelligence, qualities often invisible amid the public spectacle. In private discussions, Kate reportedly emphasized to Harry that his choices were his alone. She reminded him that the family understood the pressures he faced, but that no one was attempting to dictate his path. She framed her counsel around perspective, clarity, and love. "You have always been in control of your decisions," she said, according to sources. "We support you, and we respect the choices you make for your life and your family." These words, simple yet profound, convey the underlying reality that has been obscured by sensationalism. The family's stance was supportive, not coercive. This revelation also sheds light on a broader misunderstanding: the perception of conflict versus the reality of communication breakdown. While the public saw drama and tension, the family was engaged in deliberate, nuanced conversations aimed at balancing personal autonomy with institutional responsibility. Kate's insight demonstrates that much of the perceived pressure was actually concern, care, and attempts to guide Harry through emotionally charged decisions. The difference is subtle but essential. What looked like coercion was in fact dialogue, guidance, and familial support. Kate also highlighted moments where Harry's perception diverged from reality. Sources indicate that Harry, grappling with personal desires and the media narrative, interpreted certain discussions as pressure, when in fact they were expressions of concern and empathy. Kate, recognizing this, acted as a bridge, clarifying intentions, providing context, and attempting to ensure that emotions did not cloud understanding. Her role as mediator was crucial in maintaining a line of communication and preserving familial bonds during an extraordinarily volatile period. One particularly revealing insight from Kate concerns the palace's internal response to Harry's decision-making process. Far from orchestrating an exit, the family monitored, advised, and supported, providing counsel while allowing Harry to make autonomous choices. Kate observed, mediated, and provided emotional guidance, but at no point did the family push, threaten, or coerce him. The narrative of exile, which had dominated media coverage for years, was therefore a misinterpretation, an overlay of speculation onto a far more nuanced reality. Moreover, Kate emphasized that Harry's departure was a proactive choice, not a reactive one. He weighed the consequences, considered his family's perspective, and made a decision that reflected his priorities, values, and commitments. Meghan's presence, while influential, did not override Harry's agency. Kate's reflections make it clear that Harry's autonomy was central. He was choosing a path, not responding to an ultimatum. The family's respect for that autonomy, according to Kate, is a testament to both emotional intelligence and loyalty, challenging simplistic portrayals of the royal dynamic. This chapter in the royal saga also underscores the emotional stakes. Harry's decision carried ramifications beyond his immediate family. It affected public perception, charitable engagements, international relations, and the institution's public image. Kate's perspective reveals that the family approached these stakes with care, attempting to balance private decisions with public responsibilities. Her voice provides an essential lens into the emotional labor required to navigate these extraordinary circumstances. Another critical element of Kate's disclosure is the contrast between perception and reality. Public narratives, fueled by media sensationalism, often depicted a family divided, an institution rigid, and a prince cornered. Kate's insights, however, illuminate a different picture: a family engaged in dialogue, a prince exercising agency, and a couple navigating personal choices amid unprecedented pressures. The discrepancy between these narratives reveals how easily public perception can diverge from private reality, a theme that runs throughout the Sussex story. Kate also shared that the family's patience extended beyond advice. They respected boundaries, allowed private reflection, and provided space for Harry to articulate his needs and intentions. This patience, according to insiders, was crucial in preventing immediate conflicts and preserving long-term relationships. Kate's reflections highlight the importance of measured responses, empathy, and understanding in managing complex family dynamics, qualities that have often been overshadowed by sensationalist media coverage. Yet, despite the family's support, public misunderstanding persisted. Headlines framed Harry as a rebel, Meghan as a manipulator, and the family as rigid and unyielding. Kate's disclosure challenges these portrayals, emphasizing that the decision to leave was voluntary, deeply personal, and respected by those closest to him. Her perspective reframes the story, highlighting the interplay between perception, reality, and emotional complexity. And here's the cliffhanger. Kate hinted at one private exchange, a moment where Harry confronted the family's intentions head-on and gained clarity about their stance. This conversation, according to sources, changed the trajectory of decisions, affirmed his agency, and reshaped the narrative in ways the public could never have anticipated. Kate has not revealed the full details, leaving the world to wonder what exactly was said in that pivotal moment, and how did it cement Harry's choice? Because understanding that the family never asked him to leave is only the beginning. It reframes the narrative, challenges assumptions, and sets the stage for revelations about private correspondence, emotional pressures, and behind-the-scenes decisions that will continue to unfold in the following chapters. Kate's insight, grounded in observation, empathy, and first-hand knowledge, provides clarity, but it also leaves tantalizing gaps, teasing revelations that promise to shock, intrigue, and captivate. In the digital age, nothing is truly private. And in the royal family, even the smallest message, note, or letter carries monumental weight. Princess Kate's recent disclosures shed light on the hidden communications that shaped the trajectory of Harry and Meghan's departure from the monarchy. These are not mere anecdotes. They are pieces of a puzzle, revealing emotional tensions, private deliberations, and subtle influences that the public has never fully understood. It began, according to insiders, with letters exchanged between Harry and senior family members. Handwritten, carefully phrased, and laden with subtext, these letters documented a dialogue that was at once intimate and politically significant. Kate, ever attentive to nuance, noticed the delicate balance in these communications, the interplay between emotional expression, reassurance, and strategic clarity. Every word mattered. Every sentence carried meaning, and every omission left space for interpretation. One letter, in particular, stands out in accounts from palace insiders. It was a note Harry sent to his father, King Charles, after months of growing tension and media speculation. The letter reportedly expressed Harry's desire to protect his immediate family, articulate his personal needs, and assert his agency while still honoring his responsibilities to the monarchy. Kate's observation of this letter revealed not just the content, but the tone, a blend of urgency, loyalty, and vulnerability. The prince was caught between worlds, and every word was a carefully measured attempt to navigate that divide. Texts added another layer of complexity. Unlike letters, which were formal and deliberate, texts were spontaneous, immediate, and emotional. According to insiders, these messages, exchanged between Harry, Meghan, Kate, William, and other aides, offered glimpses into real-time reactions, frustrations, and moments of empathy. Kate reportedly observed that the texts often reflected emotional candor, sometimes conflicting with public statements or media narratives. A single text could convey reassurance, frustration, or clarification, revealing the human side of a story that had been sensationalized in headlines. Kate's insight highlights the significance of context in these communications. For example, a text from Harry expressing anxiety about media scrutiny might have been interpreted externally as defiance or complaint, but in private, it was a plea for understanding and support. Similarly, letters discussing future plans were often seen as ultimatums or threats in public narratives, when in reality they were part of ongoing dialogue, balancing emotion and strategy. Kate's observations underscore how easily private messages can be misunderstood when removed from their intended context. Another revealing dimension involves the hidden messages, subtle cues, indirect communications, and coded language used to convey meaning without exposing vulnerability. Insiders report that Kate became particularly attuned to these subtleties. A seemingly casual remark in a text, a phrase in a letter, or even a carefully chosen word in conversation could carry immense significance. Kate's role was often to interpret these signals, ensure clarity, and mitigate misunderstandings before they escalated into conflict. This delicate work, largely invisible to the public, was instrumental in maintaining lines of communication during moments of high tension. The emotional impact of these communications cannot be overstated. Kate observed that letters and texts were not just administrative tools, they were lifelines. They allowed Harry to express fears, frustrations, and desires without confrontation. They provided Meghan a channel to influence, reassure, and support Harry while respecting boundaries. And they offered the family a way to remain connected, to provide guidance, and to navigate emotional turbulence with sensitivity and care. In this sense, The correspondence was as much about managing relationships as it was about decision-making. Some messages, according to insiders, revealed contradictions that fueled public speculation. For example, a letter expressing Harry's commitment to the monarchy might have been juxtaposed with a text indicating his desire for autonomy, creating a perception of inconsistency. Kate's observations suggest that these contradictions were not signs of indecision or manipulation, but reflections of the emotional complexity of the choices at hand. Harry was reconciling love, duty, and personal agency, and his communications mirrored the tension inherent in that process. Kate also highlighted moments when these communications were misinterpreted by the media. A leaked text or selective excerpt from a letter could suggest conflict, drama, or coercion, when the full context revealed empathy, dialogue, and negotiation. Kate's role in clarifying these misinterpretations underscores her importance as both observer and mediator, ensuring that private correspondence was understood as intended within the family, even as public narratives diverged sharply. One particularly striking example involves a series of messages exchanged during a crucial week in the decision-making process. Harry reportedly expressed fears about media intrusion, Meghan offered reassurance and strategic advice, and Kate provided guidance on maintaining family communication. Each message carried emotional weight, strategic significance, and subtle influence. Together, they created a network of communication that was both complex and vital, shaping decisions that would later become headlines. The letters and texts also reveal the intensity of loyalty and support within the family. Kate's perspective emphasizes that, despite media portrayals of conflict and exclusion, these communications were often expressions of care, concern, and solidarity. The family's approach, grounded in empathy and strategic thinking, aimed to balance Harry's personal needs with the responsibilities of royal life, a delicate act of emotional diplomacy. Hidden messages added another layer. Kate reportedly observed nuanced cues, phrases meant to reassure, subtle prompts for dialogue, and indirect suggestions for decision-making. These elements, though invisible to outsiders, played a critical role in shaping Harry's understanding of his options and the family's intentions. They illustrate the sophistication and emotional intelligence at work behind the scenes, a sophistication often overlooked in sensationalist accounts. The public, unaware of these communications, was left to fill in the gaps. Headlines implied conflict, coercion, and rebellion, while the reality, illuminated by Kate, was one of dialogue, negotiation, and emotional complexity. Letters, texts, and hidden messages reveal a world where communication is both powerful and fragile, capable of clarifying intentions or creating misunderstandings depending on context. Kate's insight provides the clarity necessary to interpret these communications accurately, offering a window into the private emotional life of the royal family. And here's the cliffhanger. Kate hinted that one particular letter, one private message exchanged at a critical moment, contains a revelation so explosive it could change public perception of Harry's exit entirely. She has not disclosed the content, but the suggestion alone raises profound questions. What was said? How did it influence decisions? And why has it remained hidden for so long? This unanswered mystery promises to reshape narratives and deepen understanding of the choices, pressures, and emotions that defined one of the most scrutinized departures in royal history. Because letters, texts, and hidden messages were not mere formalities. They were the threads connecting love, duty, and personal choice. They reveal Harry's agency, Meghan's influence, and the family's empathy in ways that the public narrative has largely ignored. And as Kate continues to break her silence, these communications form a critical foundation for understanding the human story behind the headlines, teasing revelations that continue to unfold with each new disclosure. The story of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's departure from the monarchy is often told in extremes: rebellion versus duty, scandal versus tradition, love versus loyalty. But Princess Kate's insights reveal a crucial layer that has been missing from public discourse: the stark contrast between public perception and private reality. In a world where every move is scrutinized, every gesture photographed, and every statement dissected, the personas presented to the public often conceal far more than they reveal. Kate's perspective sheds light on this divide. offering a rare glimpse into the private lives of those living under constant observation. The royal family operates under unique pressures. Every public engagement is meticulously planned, every statement carefully vetted, and every expression subtly calculated. This cultivated persona serves multiple purposes, maintaining dignity, projecting stability, and preserving the institution's integrity. Yet behind the polished smiles and impeccable etiquette lies a world of emotion, doubt, and human complexity. Kate, who has navigated this duality with remarkable skill, observed firsthand how Harry's public persona often diverged from his private experience, and how Meghan's own image, meticulously managed in the media, contrasted with the personal struggles they faced together. Publicly, Harry was often portrayed as a prince struggling under the weight of tradition, occasionally impulsive, sometimes rebellious, and increasingly critical of the monarchy. Headlines suggested anger, alienation, and even betrayal. The public narrative framed Meghan as either a manipulative force or a transformative partner, depending on the outlet. These portrayals, sensational and reductive, often ignored the nuanced realities of private life. Kate's perspective highlights this tension, the disparity between how events appeared externally and what was experienced internally. Kate observed that Harry's private persona was deeply thoughtful, reflective, and conscious of his responsibilities. Far from the impulsive figure often depicted in media narratives, Harry wrestled with ethical dilemmas, family obligations, and the emotional stakes of his decisions. He weighed consequences carefully, considered the well-being of his family, and sought to act in ways that balanced personal happiness with institutional duty. Kate's insights reveal a side of Harry rarely seen. A man navigating unprecedented circumstances with both vulnerability and intentionality. Similarly, Meghan's public persona often diverged from her private self. Media narratives framed her in extremes, either a schemer orchestrating royal upheaval or a victim of an unyielding institution. Kate's observations suggest a more complex reality. Privately, Meghan was supportive, thoughtful, and strategic, advocating for Harry's needs while navigating her own pressures and challenges. Her influence was significant but collaborative, rooted in partnership rather than coercion. This contrast between public image and private reality underscores a recurring theme in the Sussex story. Appearances often mislead, and perception can obscure truth. The divide between public and private personas was exacerbated by the relentless gaze of the media. Every public engagement, statement, or gesture was amplified, dissected, and interpreted through countless lenses. Kate, keenly aware of this dynamic, noted that private frustrations or concerns could be misrepresented as rebellion or conflict. For example, a measured critique of palace procedures could be portrayed as public defiance. A moment of personal doubt could be cast as scandal. This misalignment created tension, misunderstanding, and, ultimately, a skewed narrative that the public consumed as reality. Kate's role in navigating this duality was multifaceted. She acted as an observer, mediator, and interpreter, translating private emotions and intentions into context for those within the family and mitigating misperceptions where possible. Her awareness of the gap between public image and private reality allowed her to provide guidance, reassurance, and emotional stability during a period of intense scrutiny. In doing so, she helped preserve both family cohesion and institutional integrity, balancing empathy with prudence. One revealing example involves the public reaction to early statements Harry made about royal life. Media outlets amplified certain phrases, portraying them as grievances, complaints, or ultimatums. In reality, Kate observed that these statements were part of an ongoing private dialogue, reflecting concern, reflection, and a desire for clarity rather than defiance. Her understanding of these nuances illustrates the complexity of interpreting behavior under constant observation and highlights the dangers of drawing conclusions based solely on public appearances. The contrast between public and private personas also shaped Meghan's influence on Harry. Publicly, Meghan was scrutinized, judged, and often vilified. Privately, she was a source of support, counsel, and partnership. Kate's insights suggest that Harry's decisions were informed by this duality, navigating external pressures while responding to private counsel, balancing public expectations with personal priorities. Understanding this tension is essential to appreciating the complexity of his choices. Kate's reflections also underscore the emotional toll of maintaining public facades. Harry and Meghan's public appearances required composure, confidence, and charisma, even when private realities were fraught with anxiety, doubt, or conflict. Kate noted that this performative aspect of royal life added strain to personal decision-making, heightening the stakes and intensifying emotional responses. Her observations highlight the human cost of living under constant scrutiny, emphasizing that public perception often fails to capture the lived experience of those involved. The role of communication in bridging this divide cannot be overstated. Kate observed how letters, texts, and private conversations helped align understanding within the family, compensating for the distortions created by public narratives. These communications provided context, clarified intentions, and reinforced bonds of trust, even as the media amplified conflict. Kate's insights reveal that much of the perceived discord in the public eye was mitigated internally through careful dialogue, empathy, and emotional intelligence. Yet the tension between public and private personas created contradictions that fueled speculation. A single gesture, remark, or misinterpreted statement could be blown out of proportion, suggesting conflict where none existed. Kate's perspective emphasizes that navigating these contradictions required vigilance, emotional awareness, and strategic thinking.